Okay, so as you've seen from my previous speeches before, I like to be comical and have some fun with things. However, just today I decided to go with a more serious program. I'm talking about the neighborhood watch programs. Unfortunately, this is a group that has been under a lot of scrutiny and criticism in recent years. I'm sure we all know which case I'm going to be talking about. We'll get to that in a little bit. I'll be presenting the past, present, and future, as in we're taking a look back at the history and why this program got started. Some few recent cases that can show both negatives and positives, and then we're going to take a look at the future of how one town is going to try and implement a neighborhood watch program without even leaving their own home. But before we do that, I'm going to take you on a personal story of mine. Back when I was going to high school, I lived not really in a neighborhood, but I lived off of a major street. Now, the crime rate there was really bad. I'm talking so bad, we actually had a meth lab growing in my next door neighbor's house. However, ironically, when they got kicked out, the people who moved in there, the husband was a cop. And so, of course, the crime rate would eventually end up dropping exponentially. So this can show how even just one person can control how neighborhoods can be a lot more safer for not only yourself, but for all of your neighbors. So first we're going to take a look at the history. Basically how the Neighborhood Watch program started. It began in the late 1960s in New York, and the National Sheriff's Association began pushing it nationwide in 1972. Now, the main case that started these Neighborhood Watch programs is the murder of Kenny Genovese. So we're going to take a little look around America. First, we're starting in Queens, New York. On March 13th, 1964, Kenny Genovese was stabbed to death right outside of her neighborhood in Kew Gardens. And according to reports, 38 people saw this, but did nothing about it. This became a phenomenon that was later known as the bystander effect. Basically, psychological phenomenon where individuals do not offer help when other people are present. It's inversely related to the number of bystanders and the probability of help. Basically meaning the more people there are, the less probable that someone is going to step in. Some variables that can lead to this effect are ambiguity, cohesiveness, and most importantly, as we'll be seeing in a video in a little bit, diffusion of responsibility. So this is actually a news report that someone showed, basically demonstrating how the bystander effect works.
Place like this street in New York City, if you were unfortunate enough to be the victim of a crime or taken ill unexpectedly, you might think that surrounded by all these people, someone would intervene. After all, isn't there safety in numbers? Psychologists say no. Research suggests that often a victim is less likely to receive assistance when surrounded by a group rather than a single bystander. When people are in a crowd, it's easier to pass the buck. It's what psychologists call the diffusion of responsibility.